Good morning, YouTube. It's the morning after the great political leaders debate here in the UK. For those outside the country, you may not know there is a general election about to happen in a week today, in fact. So I thought I'd take a moment and talk about 5 things that are really starting to bug me about this general election. So the first thing a lot of people, even in the UK, don't really understand about the way our political system works is you don't vote for leaders. It's not like the presidential race in America or in France or any other country that has a presidential system. We have a parliamentary democracy. And that means that no matter who the leader of the party is, you don't get a say in it. You vote for your local candidate from whichever party you want to vote for, and the party that has the biggest majority, the leader of that party, becomes the Prime Minister. That's the way it works. So last night on the TV we had this leaders debate, which the Prime Minister didn't show up to, and I'll leave it up to you whether that's a good or a bad thing. But the reality is, yes, these are the leaders of the party, yes, these are the spokespeople that you see more of on the TV, but they're not the people that most of us vote for. In fact, there were 7 people there. So there was only 7 constituents around the country whose MP was actually represented in that debate. So everyone's getting all bent out of shape over the leaders debate. Really what you should be doing is listening to what your local candidate has to say and making a decision based upon whether you want to vote for them or vote for somebody else. But you don't vote for leaders. So one of the other things that people outside of the UK really don't seem to understand about politics in the UK is there's kind of an unwritten rule, and it's an unwritten rule that says, don't ask. You're not supposed to ask me who I'm going to vote for, who I might be voting for on the day, or even afterwards, who I voted for. That's between me and the ballot box. It's really none of your business who I vote for. But everybody seems to be obsessed with collecting statistics about the number of people in this area that said they were going to vote for a certain person, then multiplying that by the population of the UK and coming out with a prediction of who's going to win the election. And this seems to happen on a minute-by-minute basis on British television. So it's a simple thing. In the US military, there used to be something to do with people's sexuality called don't ask, don't tell. Well, when it comes to British politics, we should adopt the same thing. Don't ask and I won't tell. My vote is between me and the ballot box. Okay, number 3, let's talk about social media. I'd like to just put something out there. It doesn't matter what you say on social media, you are not going to change a single person's mind about who they're going to vote for. So yelling at people on social media, posting fake news, all of this isn't going to sway anybody, because the floating voters aren't sitting there going, you know what, he's made such a convincing case in 140 characters on Twitter that I'm going to change my mind who I vote for. So please stop it. One of the things I do during the general election is I just filter people on Twitter. I am so sick of all of the fake news, all of the yelling, and that's what people are doing. They're basically yelling at you saying, you're wrong, you should be doing it the way that I'm doing it, you should agree with what I agree with. Well, as I said earlier, I'll vote for who I want to vote for, and your posts on social media aren't going to make the slightest bit of difference. So please stop it. It's just unnecessary noise. Okay, polls. Polls are really not that important. The media loves them. Every single night on the news we see the latest polls in the elections. But the reality is the polls are wrong more often than they're right. Therefore, why do we place so much value in them? The polls recently, if you just look back at the US election, the polls were conclusive. Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president of the United States. Wrong. The polls during the referendum on Brexit said we were staying in the European Union. Wrong. So why do we believe polls now? Polls say that this party is up by this many points, or this party is encroaching on this party. They take a relatively small sample, they multiply it by the population of the country, and they come out with a prediction which bears no resemblance to the actual voting on the day. Don't forget, people vote in their local constituencies. So just because a particular poll in a particular part of the country says one thing, doesn't mean that's going to be carried out throughout the nation. Polls, they're not worth the virtual paper they're printed on. Number 5. Most people's minds are already made up. And the reality is, for most people, they vote the way their parents voted. The likelihood is, if you were brought up in a household where your parents voted Labour, you probably vote Labour. If you're brought up in a Conservative household, you probably vote Conservative. And I think for the majority of people, they don't ever consider that they might actually vote for another party than the one they voted for last time. I mean, how's this for a radical idea? How about you listen to the issues, you make a decision on how they will affect you, your family, and the area around you. And then you make a decision as to which party basically is going to be the best for you and your family and the area around you. I know that sounds radical, but really everybody is left on some things, they're right on other things. You know, you're not necessarily a blue blood Conservative or a red-hearted Labour supporter or a Lib Dem or an SNP supporter or one of the other parties. Everybody is different on every single issue. So how about listen to the issues, sit down, consider them, find out which one suits you the best, and then vote for them. Don't say, I'm a Conservative, I'm a Labour supporter. You're just a sheep if you do that. Okay, let me wrap this up. As I say, I don't normally talk about politics in these vlogs. I'm not here to sway your opinion one way or the other. But I am here to ask you for one thing. No matter who you vote for, please just vote. There's a lot of talk and people will tell you that many people have died in years gone by to make sure that you have the freedom to vote. And while all of that is true, that's not important. I'm a great believer in you should vote because then you're entitled to have an opinion. If you don't vote, you have no right to go and complain about the government that you end up with. You weren't part of the process. Now, whether you vote for somebody who didn't end up getting elected is irrelevant. Just go and vote. Even if you walk into the polling booth and you decide, I don't want to vote for any of these people, then just spoil your ballot paper, write none of the above, put a big cross through the whole thing, but register the fact that you went in there and you voted and you told people what your opinion was on the subject. Okay, I promise no more politics for the rest of this election and actually for any other elections that we're likely to have. We seem to have had an awful lot in the last few months. But that's it for today's vlog. If you have been, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.